Magandang araw po mga kaibigan. Samantalang kayo po yung nagkakape, meron din ako makakasamang magkape mula sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. Maganda po kasing pag-usapan kung ano ang nagaganap sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. Sabi nila masyadong nakatuon ang pansin sa Manila. Although a big part of the economy is in Metro Manila, as most businesses are registered in Metro Manila and that revenues are going to Metro Manila rather than the provinces. Narito rin yung malalaking bangko, narito rin yung policy makers, narito rin ang mga nasa executive, nasa hudikatura, at ang ating mga legislators are based in Manila. But today, we'd like to find out what's going on in the provinces. We're happy to have with us the former Secretary General of the Senate, Lutz Barbo. Siya po yung dating gobernador. Doon po naman sa Eastern Samar, we're joined by former Governor and DNR Secretary Tony Cerilles. Mula po naman sa Zamboanga Peninsula. And of course, another good friend, Governor Lito Coscolluela, former Governor of Negros Occidental. We'd like to find out what's going on. Siguro simulan natin kay Governor Barbo, kay Secretary General Barbo. How are things going in Eastern Samar? Ano po ang inyong impormasyon?
Well, that's a very broad question. Siguro yung pwede kong sabihin siguro kung ano ang current ngayon, ano?
Yes, please.
Of course, I was the campaign manager of the president in Eastern Samar during the presidential elections. And pinahirapan kami ng mayor at saka yung congressman, hindi kami pinapag-rally, pinapag-meeting sa public plaza. Gagamitin daw nila at binuksan lahat ang mga ilaw, nilagyan ng mga upuan. Yung pala hindi pala gagamitin. Ang ginawa namin doon kami sa baybaying dagat. But anyway, nung nagpunta si President Duterte noong after about 2 weeks, medyo na ano lang kami na nagulat dahil he was saying something na to me was unachievable. He was saying, give me 3 months to 6 months. I will stop corruption and illegal drugs. And I remember him saying na pupunta ako sa West Philippine Sea. Itatanim ko yung Philippine flag. And he was holding on to the flag. Siguro mga 2 meters away lang ako sa kanya and he was looking at me. And all the time, yung mga tao, pati ako pumapalakpak na rin because I think sabi ko, this is the guy who had the balls to do that. Pero mukhang nawawala na yata yung balls niya. Nagugulat na kami. And that's why we got disappointed. Ano ba itong nangyayari sa kanya? So anyway, ganun yan. Yung mga kalaban namin, yun na ngayon ang pumalit sa amin. PDP laban, no? Yung nakakampi.
Talaga?
Oo, talagang ganyan na ang kwan. And remember, he was saying in Pampanga, pupunta ako sa mga munisipyo, sa mga syudad ninyo at magdadala ako ng sako-sakong pera. And siguro, one of the reasons, you must have heard about it doon nung
Yeah.
And mukhang hindi ko lang nagustuhan, mukhang ini-insulto niya sila. Well, bahala siya dyan. Ini-insulto niya si Senators Coco, Pimentel at saka si Pacquiao. Okay lang yan because they can defend themselves. But when he insulted and desecrated the memory of Nene Pimentel, I did not like it. Sabi ko mukhang iba talaga itong presidente. Walang utang na loob daw. Ang utang na loob niya kay Xi Jinping sa China. Mukhang I think that's un-PDP laban-like.
Okay. Simula pa lamang ito ng ating kumustahan, ano? Go. Magtungo naman tayo sa Zamboanga. Magtungo tayo sa Zamboanga. How are things going sa inyong lugar? Matagal na kayong hindi lumuluwas ng Maynila. Secretary Tony Cerilles, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Naka-mute pa po ba kayo? Naka-mute pa kayo. Pakisuyo lang. Naka-mute po kayo. Oops. Sandali lang. Paano kaya natin ma-unmute ito? Sandali po mga kaibigan. Paki-press lang po doon sa inyong Galaxy.
Ayan, ayan. Okay.
So how are things going? We haven't seen you in Manila for some time.
Well, actually, nakakatakot pumunta sa NCR. Honestly,
Yeah.
ang hindi ko maintindihan, alam naman ng buong daigdig yung gamot na pinipilit niya Sinovac, mas mahal pa sa Pfizer, mas mahal pa sa AstraZeneca, mas halos kasing mahal ng Moderna, at 4 na lang na bansa tumatanggap pag pinakunahan ka ng Sinovac o Sputnik. Yun na lang ang Amerika dahil sa Guam, doon tayo tinatanggap, at Sweden, Hungary, at Canada. Just today, bawal na pag Sinovac ay binakuna sa iyo. OCW, Gulf State, pag Sinovac, hindi ka tatanggapin. CPR, hindi ka tatanggapin. Naku, ano ba itong na ikaw maintindihan, ang chairman ng Committee on Health natin, panay dikit kay Presidente, si Bongo, ba't niya pagsabihan yung Presidente niya na mahina ang klase yung bakuna niya? Di ba, I remember Dr. Lutz as early as 2020, nagsalita, bakit sino ba bibili natin? Hindi pa tested na efficacy niyan. Kita mo ngayon, sa Indonesia, pati Thailand, dahil Sinovac sila, nagreklamo na. Sa Indonesia now, in the center of epidemic. Kaya tayo, nagpasalamat tayo, pero binibigay sa atin mga ambag, Pfizer, galing sa World Health Organization, Johnson, bigay ng Amerika, AstraZeneca, bigay ng COVAX facility sa Japan. Kaya kung wala pa yung mga Western medicine na yan, paano tayo? Yan ang tanong ko. Tapos, last song niya, may wala sa sinabi. Paano, how to address the number of unemployed? Paano yung ma-address ang pandemya? Paano niya address ang West Philippine Sea? Sa lahat ng kinsi niyang, he promised 15 promises during the last election. Sama niyo sinabi ni Governor Barbo. May isa wala na natupad. When he entered the presidency, ang utang natin is only 5.2 trillion pesos. Last month, magkano utang natin? 11 trillion point 16. Ano ba naman yan? Tapos, ang laki ng budget niya. Kaya nga tinanong siya ni Senator Pimentel, hindi mo sinasabi kung magkano utangin natin. Hindi mo utangin magkano pera natin. Kung madagdagan na naman niya ng mga 4 o 5 trillion, dahil sa 5 years niya pag-upo magka-presidente, ang utang natin naging 200% tumaas. So, bali wala sa nagawa. Ano ba yan? Kaya I agree with Governor Barbo in his observation. I think for any public official, public servant of that matter, what is important is the legacy.
Okay.
And as mabak yung sinabi niya, inagawan niya si mga pinipilaban na hierarchy because it's not afraid of this crime against humanity before the ICC. At ang masama pa doon, yun ang yabang siya, magdadala siya ng sakong-sakong pera pag nangangampanya siya. At least an insult to us Filipinos. Anong tingin niya sa atin? Manhid?
Yeah. All right. Simula pa lamang yan, mula sa Zamboanga, Peninsula. Can we hear from our good friend? Nasa linya na rin. Kasama natin si Governor Lito Coscolluela. Magandang araw po sa inyo, Governor Lito. We'd like to hear from Negros Occidental. You know, isang mahalagang bagay sa mga Pilipino ay yung asukal. At ang asukal ay diyan karamihan nagbubula sa Negros. Kumusta kaya yung ating mga kababayan? By the way, I have with me a statement of another good friend, si Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua ng NEDA. At ang sabi niya ay almost all sectors bounced back despite the imposition of the ECQ and MECQ. Pero merong disturbing part dito. Governor, may sinasabi yung ating kaibigan mula sa NEDA. Ang sabi niya ay ito. Yun daw pong agriculture ay nagkaroon ng improvement so far. Lito, what are your thoughts about this? Teka, medyo inaayos niyo yung kanyang signal. All right. All right. On the production side, Governor Lito, ang sabi ni Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua, all sectors expanded except agriculture, which is slightly contracted by 0.1%. Pero sinasabi naman niya, nangyari ito due to the decline in pork production. I don't know how things are going in Negros Occidental. Governor Lito. Paki-unmute lang po muna. Okay. Let's try it.
Sorry about that.
Good.
Kamusta ngayon?
Yeah, okay. Yes, Governor.
Muna ako. Well, you know, I have a different impression about the economic performance. In fact, agriculture is supposed to be the only sector na nag-exhibit ng growth over the last year and a half. No? Because yun nga, ang sinabi ko, in spite of the pandemic, agriculture managed to continue with the operation. In fact, dito sa amin, yung sugar industry, medyo maswerte kami dahil hindi na hinto ang operations ng industriya. No? So, by and large, labor has been able to maintain its regular work. And so, sa rural areas, hindi masyadong apektado yung labor sector. Ang apektado dito sa urban areas, yung mga nawalan ng trabaho, no, and yung mga apektado dahil sa COVID, di ba? And this is actually ang problema ng mga mayor ngayon, nauubos na yung resources sa ayuda. So if this continues, our local government units are going to be severely challenged by the need to maintain the ayuda, no? And alam naman natin yung national government nabaon na rin sa utang. So I don't know how long we can sustain this if we don't see a recovery of the economy. So yun ang sitwasyon. And then we're facing now the devolution initiatives of government following the Mandanas ruling. All LGUs are now mandated to chart their devolution transition program. And ang worrisome dito is the LGUs might be buried in the work of preparing their devolution transition plans. And the other problem, Melo, is I don't know kung na-realize ito. People are saying, because of the Mandanas ruling, magkakaroon ng windfall ang LGUs, no, for 2022. That is correct. But for 2023 and 2024, we're going to see a drastic reduction in internal revenues because nga yung effect of COVID, no? So LGUs who prepare for the devolution for 2022, including additional personnel, etc., in order to perform devolved functions, they will see in 23 and 24 a drastic reduction in IRA. So as one of the planning officers in this afternoon session sa DILG mentioned, LGUs have to be a little careful about adding expenses because of next year's budget. The following year, 2023, magre-reduce yan because of the reduced IRA. So This is the situation, Melo. Local government units are going to be severely challenged in running their own affairs. And importante dito yung leadership of the national government and its ability to inspire and enable local government units to face the challenges. So masyadong importante dito yung the leadership that we are going to elect come 2022. Thank you, Melo.
Really, mabigat yung sinabi nyo dahilan sa masaya tayo, dahilan sa may mandanas ruling, pero yung pangs of the COVID-19 pandemic will begin to show by next year, no? Doon sa
Yes.
IRA. Malaking
Yes.
kabawasan yon. I just don't know. Kailangan lang ba talaga na dagdagan pa yung IRA? Well, it's already a law. But the problem is, kung hindi magagastos ng maayos yan, malaking problema. I do recall, I don't know whether Governor Tony will agree and Governor Barbo, may nakapagkwento sa akin na naging Undersecretary of Defense. We took off from a helicopter. Sabi niya, tingnan mo ika yung mga SUV. Sa baba, kako, ano yan? Yan yung IRA na convert into rolling stocks. So, sabi nung sangguniang panlalawigan, bumili ka ng ganitong sasakyan, bili ng sasakyan. I don't know. How was it during your time, Secretary Tony, in your area? How did you use your IRA?
Well, I was part of the member of Congress who approved the local government code, otherwise known as the Devolution
Yes.
of 1991. I was a member of the opposition, but I supported it. Devolution of agriculture, social services, health. But unfortunately, if you look at the budget of these three departments keep on growing. So what devolution are we talking here? So actually, if you just look at the budget, physically, the three devolved functions of the national government, pataas na pataas. What devolution are we talking here? So, agriculture, as correctly stated by Governor Coscolluela, is supposed to be devolved. But how come up to now, the budget of the national government, Department of Agriculture, is always increasing every year. But they're supposed to concentrate on specialized hospital. What do I mean by specialized hospital? Cancer, kidney, heart, lungs. That is supposed to be the main function of the Department of Health. The other hospitals are supposed to be devolved. As we have done in Zamboanga del Sur, we converted our provincial hospital into a medical center. But how come there's still now laws I see being passed making provincial hospital as national hospital? So it's going back. So instead of strengthening devolution, we are now going back, passing the buck to the national government. It's a good thing that Governor Coscolluela is talking about agriculture. Really, I agree with him. As a matter of fact, it's because there's so many parts, so much parts of bureaucracy in the national government. And now, small problem, the president hierarchy wants additional department instead of removing all those parts. So, nakakatakot nga. Yung Mandanas Doctrine actually is more on there are collections of customs which is supposed to be handed to BIR.
Okay.
Nagkaroon ng arrangement ang BIR sa customs, wag na. Sasama na lang sa collection of customs. Yun ang point namin. When we were governor, we were looking for that money. Ibalik nyo sa BIR kasi yan ang ira namin. That's how the League of Governors, through Mandanas, won the game before the Supreme Court. That's the kind of windfall the old governor is talking. But Governor Coscolluela is correct because the collection from of our collecting agency, BR for that matter, sigurado mababa yan. Remember the millions of jobless people and the millions of closed working places and work shops,
Aha.
stores. Saan kukunin mo yung income na yan? So, I can foresee a smaller era because of the lack of enterprises, lack of job opportunities, etc.
Okay.
Baba talaga. I agree. We should not be, I would say, we need managers to run the show in 2022. Not people who are there for a show for bravado. We need expertise, we need honesty, we need people who are really that honest to serve the Filipino people for 2022.
Very good. Maganda yan. We can go into details a bit later. Governor Barbo, your views about this because, you know, ang sabi kasi ni Secretary June Esperon, hindi lang yung COVID ang panganib sa bansa. And I don't know whether you will agree with me, insurgency, according to Secretary Esperon, is another threat. Now, Eastern Samar is known for, well, sabihin na natin mga sagupaan between the government and the so-called NPAs, ganun din sa Negros, ganun din sa Zamboanga Peninsula. What are your thoughts about insurgency? How are things going?
Well, I'm not the governor anymore, but
Of course.
during my time, I think I was, siguro pagbubuhat na ito ng bangko, I was so successful that President Ramos used to regard me as the Peace Initiative 5-boot man for Region 8 because many of the NPA rebels were, well, I did not or they did not want to use the word surrender, but returned to the folds of the law.
Okay.
We were so successful that the rebels from other provinces were coming to us from Northern Samar, Western Samar, even from
Leyte.
Leyte, and some from
Bicol.
Bicol.
Mhm.
And it's a good thing that Ramos was very well. He was assisting us every now and then. Rafi Alonan would go and see us and bring some amounts of money because we had what you call a one-stop shop. Now, well, I don't know, but this is one of the principal reasons why I was awarded the highest honor given by the Civil Service Commission, which is the Lingkod Bayan Award.
Mm.
And Ramos would usually ask me to talk to some people. And in fact, he asked me to see some people in Utrecht, Netherlands, because the spokesman for NDF Europe was from Eastern Samar. I had to talk with him. I had to go there, but it was a very, well, some kind of clandestine operations. Nobody knew except my family. I was there abroad. And it's a good thing I succeeded. I succeeded in convincing one of them. I don't know if you're familiar with the guy, Byron Bukar. He came back to the Philippines. Now, if I may talk about the internal revenue allotment,
Okay.
just one point. Ngayon, yung Mandanas ruling ay mukhang ini-insist na pati na yung sa BIR at sa customs isali because that's part of the national income, national government income. I remember asking Nene Pimentel saying na, Senator, bakit hindi natin naisama yung kita sa customs at saka iba pang kita ng gobyerno sa you know, when we divide the funds, national government and then the local government units, bakit hindi na isama yung BIR at saka yung customs? And I remember him saying, ayaw ng mga congressmen, ayaw na mga senators noon. It was only Cory Aquino who was agreeing with me. Nahirapan ako. So as a matter of parang negotiating strategy, sinabi ko na sige, wag na muna yung isali.
Huwag na muna.
Diyan na muna yan. Para sa national government lang yan.
Okay.
But we were saying, because I used to be the spokesman of the League of Governors, we were saying na, bakit? Kasama naman yun sa government income na
Okay.
paghahati-hatian ng national at saka local governments.
Okay. All right. Mabigat yun Anyway, babalikan ko lang yung insurgency. Katulad po sa Negros, Governor Lito, meron mga madugong pangyayari dyan lately sa mga paglipas ng panahon. Yung bang insurgency malulutas kung yung basic roots nito like injustice, yung kawalan ng lupang mabubukid, ito ba nalulutas? Nagkakaroon po ba ng solusyon ito? Governor Lito.
You know, Melo, we've conducted a formal research. This was done
At what?
in April and May. And we asked, we're talking about 420 respondents all over the province. And we asked the respondents, ano ba ang mga major concerns, top of mind concerns ninyo? No? And they named COVID mismanagement. Number 2, yung kahirapan, yung economic difficulties that they were facing.
Yes.
Number 3, corruption, government corruption. Number 4, yung West Philippine Sea or loss of Philippine sovereignty. Yung insurgency was way, way below. In other words, ang tao dito, they don't think insurgency is that much of a problem anymore. Because may, alam nyo naman, may naghahanap buhay, may trabaho, etc. I was frankly surprised because when you listen to the military, you would think that insurgency is still a major problem in the Philippines. But when you talk to the people, that's not the way they see it. Iba nang iniisip nila ngayon. So where there might be a presence of insurgents in certain areas, they don't consider this that much of a problem anymore. Okay? Ibig sabihin, ang gusto ng tao, maghanap buhay tayo. Okay? And in answer to your question, I think the problem of insurgency really indeed has to go down to the roots. No? Ano bang root causes ng insurgency? It's dissatisfaction with government, injustice. In the case of Negros and other agricultural provinces, the lack of access to land and related opportunities. Pero sinasagot naman ng gobyerno over the past 2 decades, ang dami ng ginagawa actually. So we're busy with trying to help agrarian reform beneficiaries live more viable lives with the land that they acquired. Of course, may mga failures yan. No? A lot of the land that was turned over to beneficiaries have actually been taken over by the new capitalists. No, but this is in agreement with the beneficiaries who are getting rental for the land that they got and retaining their work, their jobs.
Yeah.
So I would even venture to say that the insurgency problem is overstated. It is not that much of a problem to the extent that it hampers our economic development.
Okay. Thank you very much for the insights. I recall when I visited China in 2016, we came across a farm. Sabi namin dun sa mga magsasaka, kaninong lupa ito? Amin hong lupa ito, kaya lang inarkila nila ng korporasyon. At kami, empleyado. Meron kaming kita dahil kumikita yung farm. May sweldo pa kami. May trabaho kaming maayos. So sabi ko, if that could be worked out in China, pwede rin siguro sa Pilipinas. Wag lang masyadong parent yung ilang negosyante. Ano yung parent? Masyadong magulang. Baka ikaw, masyadong parent yung mga negosyante. Pero, Governor Tony, Secretary Tony, in your province, how do you look at insurgency?
It was really a problem when I first won in 1987. I look at the problem and I first address education. Put up as many high schools, then put up a state college. I and my family donated the main campus so that the poor will have access to education. As a matter of fact, this one campus became a multiplication virtually in all towns. There were off-site campuses, I would say. So the poor, simple people can have access to education. Believe it or not, even tricycle driver can afford to send their children to nursing school. Some became teachers despite the fact that they were only fishermen during night time. So in 2015, the Armed Forces of the Philippine Army and the LGPNP declared the province of Zamboanga del Sur as peaceful and ready for investment. As a matter of fact, twice I was awarded also as a Lincoln Bayan awardee, as governor. So, meaning to say, not only agriculture, because we have also the program of agriculture. We call it the gahong-gahong. Gahong-gahong meaning small land planted with cassava interplayed with either maize or whatever is that crop, seasonal crop. And it was even recognized by the ASEAN scientists. And they made me an award in Vietnam. Because of that, they were surprised that the lawyer like me can think of that. Because really, if you want to serve, you have to think of how these poor people to survive. And we made a partnership with San Miguel Corporation. All the proceeds of the farmers will be directly bought by San Miguel Corporation. And it improved the peace and order.
Okay.
Education, livelihood, plus infrastructure.
All
That
right.
is very important.
Now, would anybody of you agree with the approach now na sangkaterbang pera ang ibibigay doon sa mga insurgency-free areas? Magandang pag-usapan nito sapagkat I never realized yung ilang matataas na allocation, parang hindi ko naman narinig na mayroong mga NPA doon. And besides, not only that, will it require one to become a rebel to get the benefit from the government? Sino po kaya ang pwedeng sumagot sa tatlo kong mga panauhin? Sino po mauna?
Nelo?
Yes, please. Governor Lito.
Yeah, I've always felt that this approach was medyo baliktad eh. You know, let's assume for now na good intentions ito, that there is no intention to use the 20 million per barangay for purposes other than development. No, let's give them the benefit of that doubt. Okay? But, when you say that kung cleared na ang barangay mo from insurgency, ibibigyan ka ng 20 million development funds. What are you saying? You're saying, number one, that the local government officials, especially the barangay officials, must be able to declare that cleared na yung barangay nila. Okay? And that will usually involve their declaring the NPA as persona non grata. Right? So with this promise of 20 million, they will come out with a resolution declaring the NPA as persona non grata. They're getting directly involved in the war. Pag-iinitan yan ng NPA. I mean, you cannot avoid that, no? Number two, you're saying that you only deserve this development fund if your barangay is cleared. Where in fact, government should be saying, we need to attack the root causes of the insurgency, bring in development so that the barangay will eventually lose, or rather the NPAs will eventually lose the support of the masses. Diba? So baliktad ang approach. That's giving them the benefit of the doubt, no? Na gagawin itong pang-award or pang-reward to the barangays that are cleared. But what I'm saying is dapat that money, that's 19 billion yata, that money should be used to address the development needs of the most needy barangays, whether or not they are insurgency affected.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, Governor Tony.
I will not debate with Lito about that. That money should have been used to address the pandemic first.
Well, yun din.
Okay.
Sayang eh. Because I obviously I can see Lito is trying to hide something. He doesn't want it to make it very obvious. But the problem we have today is the pandemic.
Okay.
And up to now, with the variant now coming in, and we are not trying to address it promptly. And when are we going to be normal? That's the question that I'm asking now, the hierarchy. Because in the last SONA, you never mentioned about how to address the pandemic. That's why a while ago I said, unfortunately, there are only 4 countries that will accept you as a visitor or as a working man if you are vaccinated by Sinovac or Sputnik. That is the States, Hungary, Sweden, and one other small state. Now, where will we go? We Filipinos, because our government's buying Sinovac. That's the problem.
Okay.
That's why I think it's high time for the president to, just like any other country, to send back the Sinovac. Anyway, utang naman yan, babayarin natin yan, at bumili tayo ng gamot na effective. Kasi yung mga government employees I know, were forced to take Sinovac because they have no choice. Even in Manila, I heard, may nagtatanong tao, pag sinabing, Sinovac, wala pupunta. Pag sinabing, Pfizer doon, takbuhan tao. Hasta sila, takbuhan ng tao. Hindi pa ba nakikita ng Malacanang yan?
Okay.
Ha?
Okay.
Yan ang tanong ko. So, utang lahat yan. Mangungutang pa tayo na hindi na ba effective?
Okay.
A president should be the father of this country. A father should take care of the people. Is he doing that? That's my question.
Okay. Yeah. Governor Barbo, your thoughts about the issue. You have the ECLAC, you have the COVID-19. Ano po nakikita nyo?
Nakikita ko dyan na gagamitin yung pera para sa election. You know, I have a feeling it's going to be used for one getting elected or re-elected. And tama si Governor Lito, I think this is overstated yung problema. In fact, misdirected or misstated. They are not they are not communists. I talked with them when I was governor for 3 terms. I talked with them and ini-explain ko pa nga sa kanila kung ano ang communism eh. Nagugulat sila na alam ko na ang mga founders niyan sila Friedrich Engels at saka si Karl Marx. At si Mao Zedong ay kumuha lang yan ng idea sa 2 taong yon.
Convert lang ha.
O ang ginawa ko nga diyan, I employed them in the provincial government. And napakasipag pala nila. So sipag that nagjilos na yung iba na hindi pa nakakatrabaho. Sabi ko, think of the prodigal son naman. Kaya nga, sabi nila, pwede ba mag-ano muna kami, mag-NPA? Sabi ko, subukan nyo yung hirap ng buhay na mag-NPA. But anyway, I am saying na yung kanilang kausa ay kausa nating lahat. Ang difference lang natin, they take up arms and they go to the hills. Tayo, wala tayong baril. Pero ano bang ipinaglalaban nila? Ang sabi ko sa kanila, ituloy ninyo yung ipinaglalaban nyo. Short of killing people and then destroying property, using firearms, ano bang ipinaglalaban nyo? Yung injustice, yung gobyerno malayo sa mga tao, yung corruption, yung mga nagwawalang hiya sa gobyerno, yun ang kalaban natin. So help me. Join me and we will fight this problem. Kaya
wala yung sinabing sasakay kayo sa jet ski ha. Wala kang sinabing
problema, Melo, ang problema pa diyan, yung bumoto sa kanya, sinabihan pa na
Gago.
ay mga stupido at saka mga bobo. Ba't ba kayo naniwala sa akin? Hindi nga ako marunong lumangoy eh. But that was a good. That was a good come on. That was a good come on while he was doing it, while he was speaking before the public, and every now and then he would hold the Philippine flag and he would look at me and he would say, I am going to bring the Philippine flag and plant it in within the boundary of the West Philippine Sea. Palakpakan naman kami para kaming mga unggoy na naglulukso-lukso pa. Ito yung kandidato na may balls. But, yung pala at saka lalo na yung sinabi 3 months, give me 3 to 6 months. I will stop corruption. I will stop illegal drugs. Palakpakan na naman kami. Ay, sabi ko, what disappointment sasabihin ka na bobo, stupido, ba't niyo ba ako ibinoto?
Okay, pero on a more serious note, what do we expect sa mula October hanggang sa Mayo 2022? What can we expect? Because it's open season. Sabi nga, labasan lahat ng mga pangako at iba pa, at yung mga kapanay-paniwala, di kapanay-paniwalang mga pahayag, what can we expect? I don't know how Governor Lito looks at this. Sa Negros ba, ano ang mabibili ng tao? Anong hinahanap ng tao?
Well, unang-una, we can expect a circus, no? The usual circus. And the present administration has shown an extraordinary ability to flaunt its power and resources. Nakikita naman natin lahat ngayon yan eh. So there's going to be a lot of money that will go around. No? In one sense, this is good for the voters because siyempre may konting pera. But it's a very shallow source of satisfaction dahil pag naubos na yung pera, balik na naman tayo sa problema if these people get elected back into office. Diba? Here in Negros, medyo
boring ang local elections next year because walang masyadong opposing parties to the incumbents. This is good in one sense na, okay, the incumbents may not have to spend as much and they will continue focusing on addressing the current problems, no? COVID, economic recovery. But in the other sense, masama ito because we are actually going back to a situation where you have political monopolies or monoliths. Okay, in the absence of strong opposition, there will be a tendency for dynasties, whether weak or strong dynasties, to be entrenched. No, in fact, this seems to have been the trend over the last several years, the strengthening of dynasties. And I was gratified to hear over TV the other day, I think, na mukhang pinag-uusapan na naman yung proposed bill that will that will legislate dynasties out of reality. But I think we can't expect that to happen because sino ba namang kongresista ang mag-o-oppose ng dynasty if he or she belongs to a dynasty already? No?
Okay.
So politics will be another source of frustration or disappointment for us if the voters do not change their habit, which is why it's so important that we, civil society, in fact, be able to launch a more effective voter education program, which is one of the things that Isang Bayan has been doing, no, or trying to do. Remember, yung Isang Bayan, its primary goal is to replace the current administration. Okay? But parallel to that is the other goal, that of installing good governance. Okay? And you can only do that if you convince the voters that it is time for them to select their candidates more responsibly.
Okay.
That's why ang Isang Bayan has very specific criteria for the selection of presidential, vice presidential, and senatorial candidates. Simple lang naman actually yun eh. But we've never used those criteria responsibly. What are those 4 criteria? Character, competence, track record, and the ability to wage a viable national campaign. Let's take away the 4th because kung marami kang pera, syempre kaya mo yan, di ba? But the first 3, competence, character, and track record. You know, mas mahirap pang kumuha ng trabaho yung isang, palagay mo na clerk in a business office dahil ang dami niya pang dadaanan. Tatanungin ano bang record mo, anong education mo, anong employment record, experience, etc. But when somebody runs for senator, for example, without any clear record of competence or may questionable character, ang track record wala, they get elected. Why? Because they're popular.
Okay.
So the voters have to learn how to elect better officials into office.
Governor Lito, which reminds me, yung kahalagahan ng kasabihang silence is golden. Because there were candidates who never said anything, sumayaw lang sa entablado, and they won.
Yes, correct.
So
Popularity
is golden,
simple.
really.
Diba?
So yun pala yung paninindigan ng sambayan. Okay, very good. I'll be asking you more about it a bit later. Governor Tony, what do you foresee? Matagal na po kayo sa ganitong adhikain, sa profesyon, sa pagiging public servant. What do you see in the coming days?
Well, let me quote Mr. Sionel Jose, a national artist. Cory Aquino, who reversed the EDSA revolution but restored the oligarchy in Philippine politics.
Mhm.
Before martial law, you only see NPLP presenting 8 senatorial candidates. And we look at the educational background, the character, as what Governor Lito said. But now, especially last election, I was surprised to see so many candidates I never heard.
Okay.
And they got votes in the pipeline barangays. That's why, honestly, I hope our Congress will go back to basic, meaning wherein you see the voting and you see the counting. Only the transmission will be through electronics.
Mhm.
Because you cannot question a voting counting machine. Sometimes people call it a voting cheating machine.
Yes.
So I think we have to address that issue first before we
Okay.
can have an honest election.
Yeah.
Because sasayaw ka lang, mananalo ka lang, tama yung sinabi mo. Yung iba, alam naman natin, nakikita natin, walang alam, pero nananalo. Bakit kaya? Now, that's why, kung gusto natin maraming partido, why don't we shift to parliamentary system of government? So that we don't see personality. We only see the platform of government. And look at Japan. When Prime Minister Abe got sick, somebody changed him. There was no need to have an election.
Uh-huh.
Look
Okay.
at Singapore. Look at Singapore. How small they are. Big One is bragging about this. Yes, you have been there for 21 years because you have a parliamentary system government. No, Aquino has done his share. There was a growth for during his term. At Umabak, it was the highest, 7.2 in 2014, I think. And he was able to pay our debt at 3.7 trillion pesos. And nagpautang ba tayo sa Spain na $400 million?
Yeah.
Oh, di ba? So,
Okay.
kung parliamentary system yun, natuloy yung mga hanggang namatay siya. Just remember the growth. Ayun, sabi ni Governor Barbo, believe ako. Para kami unggoy nakikinig sa Duterte. Mabuti lang, hindi ako believe kay Duterte, kaya hindi ako bumoto sa kanya, hindi ako sa mga unggoy. Kaya, if we go to modify the system, then why don't we shift to a parliamentary system government? To remove personalities, you can remove dynasty. In large provinces, you can remove dynasty, and you remove the pots in the bureaucracy. Nangyayari ngayon, ang daming carpetbaggers. Duterte promised corruption to be removed in 3 to 6 months. What happened to PhilHealth? Billions na wala. So, in a presidential system government, you have new, not only new bureaucracy, but you have new carpetbaggers.
Okay.
So, kawawa bansa.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. Pero balikan ko yung sinabi ni Governor Lito na mayroong panukala pinag-uusapan sa Kongreso tungkol sa political dynasties. I watched the movies of Tom Cruise, yung Mission Impossible. Siguro kahit si Tom Cruise hindi kayang malutas. Mahihirapan dahil sila tatamaan . Anyway, Governor Barbo, your thoughts about what to see in the near future? Papalakpak na naman ba tayo? Ano bang gagawin natin?
Well, I think it's about time we go to the brass tacks. Noong isang linggo, nagkaroon kami ng, it was not a debate, it was a discussion, yung PDP laban na ng hijack. I was asked, ano bang nangyari? Sabi ko, ang nangyari dito kasi sa Cebu, they were passing a resolution asking President Duterte to run for Vice President and the President si Sara. Sabi ko, ang PDP laban is anti-political dynasty. Sabi ba naman sa akin bakit wala pa naman yung dynasty na yan, hindi pa naman dinidefine ng batas. Sabi ko, but the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution says political dynasty is prohibited. Yan, prohibited. Kaya lang, meron isang phrase doon na nagsasabi na as may be determined by Congress. In other words, kailangan may enabling law. Pero hindi pa ba political dynasty yan, daughter at saka father? How do you define political dynasty? Or would you rather say divine rights of kings? Pag ganyan, kasi meron ng anak na mayor, mayroong anak na vice mayor, mayroong anak na congressman, mayroon pang presidente na tatay. Hindi ba dynasty na yan? Does it have still to be defined by Congress? And Congress, with the present membership, would not dare touch with a 10-foot pole para lang i-define kung ano ang dynasty. Kasi sila mismo they are involved. Mga members sila na political dynasty.
Yeah. Governor, if I do recall, if I heard the President right, sabi niya, wala naman yung PDP laban until I joined Father and son lang nung araw yan. Bakit lumalabas po ngayon na yung PDP laban, naglalaban-laban na?
Well, yun ang masakit din na sinabi ni Duterte because even before he became mayor, meron ng mga taong mga palaban. When PDP Laban was put up, it was designed to fight corruption and it was designed to fight the martial law which was brutal and rapacious. Ano ito parang reform-oriented itong partido. Mukhang ginagamit lang nila ang PDP Laban for their own selfish, personal, political vested interests. Kinakalimutan na nila yung mga lofty ideals and principles ng PDP Laban. Tapos sisiraan pa si Nene Pimentel na itong mga Pimentels hindi naman daw mananalo in their own hometown kahit yung lowest political position, kahit konsihal. That was desecrating the memory of an iconic political personality who I think was a statesman, Nene Pimentel. I think that was just too much. Mukhang doon na ako na kay President Duterte. Yung kanyang bibig, I think he and his big mouth, yun ang mukhang nakakasira sa kanya at sa atin siguro.
Okay, so what will we see in the near future?
Tungkol
sa larangan ng politika, sa PDP Laban?
Sa PDP Laban, mukhang nag-file daw sila sa COMELEC. I'm referring to the hijacking wing of the party. Meron daw silang i-file sa COMELEC and papalitan yata yung listahan doon ng yung sinasabing sworn information update statement. Many of these people are in that list dito rin sa amin. Ngayon, titingnan ng COMELEC sino ba talaga ang tunay na PDP Laban at sino ba ang pwedeng maging independent PDP Laban. Now, I am saying that not just because the president is there, mayroon mga cabinet secretaries, mayroon mga senador, may mga congressmen, may mga governors, may mga mayors. These people cannot dictate on the PDP Laban.
Okay.
Ang hindi tama yun, just because they are in high government officials, they cannot say they will call the shots for PDP Laban.
Okay, Attorney Barbo. Yeah, Attorney Barbo, there's one person by the name of Ernst Röhm who said, all revolutions devour their own children.
Correct.
Would this be a reality for PDP Laban?
Well, depende on the kind of children that could be devoured and depende sa leadership. Siguro may mga leaders na, meron kaming prinsipyo, yung humanism, respect for human rights yun. Hindi tama yung sasabihin ay kayong mga pulis at mga sundalo, I order you, shoot to kill order to at saka yung theism, number one, theism, that is respect for God, belief in the Lord Almighty. I think that is wrong for one to say, stupido yung Diyos nyo. Your God is stupid, mine is not. Something is wrong with such kind of statements for supposed to be a leader of a dominant political party.
Okay.
Tsaka meron kaming prinsipyo na sinasabing social there's a term for the may term kami dyan, yung democratic socialism, na binibigyan ng laya yung iba na to serve. Hindi lang yung mag-i-impose yung sa taas dahil matataas sila o ito yung masusunod, kami ang masusunod, you just follow. I think that's wrong.
All right.
That is un-PDP Laban-like.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
If I may.
Governor Lito, you're part of Sambayan. Do you see a unified opposition? Will this be a different opposition, unified opposition, as proposed by another friend of ours, Ping Lacson?
Thank you for the question, Melo. No? What is happening now is we're realizing that a united opposition is a very difficult goal to accomplish, no? Given the nature of Philippine politics. Now, in the case of Isang Bayan, it will have to contend with three different schools of thought. Merong isa na tinatawag nating purist. Yung nagsasabing, hindi pwede yung mga tao pareho kay Ping Lacson na sumama sa united opposition for various reasons. No? For example, people will say he's never really been an oppositionist, or is not genuine opposition, or he is the author of the anti-terror law and that is inconsistent with the principles of the opposition, etc. No? So yung mga purists will tend to say na we have to limit our choices to only those who meet our very strict criteria, okay? Which might result in a very limited choice given today's situation. On the other end, the opposite is what you would call the pragmatists, the political pragmatists, who will say that, well, politics is addition, and therefore any new allies that you can get will help your campaign. Ibig sabihin, if your ultimate goal is to win, then by all means you get all possible kinds of alliances in order to win. And therefore that means accepting people who may not be as oppositionist as you. In the middle, Melo, would be what you would call the unification advocates. Diba? Yung nagsasabing, no one is perfect. He may, like in the case of Lutz, Governor Lutz, he was a campaign manager for Duterte in 2016. He now sounds like he is very disappointed with Duterte. And for example, if someone were to nominate Lutz Barbo for senator, or palagay mo na for vice president or whatever, no, and submit this nomination to Isang Bayan, somebody, the purist, might say, hindi pwede si Lutz dahil campaign manager ni Duterte yan noong 2016. But if you look at what he is now, he seems to have realized na nagkamali siya and he has taken a position that is consistent with the principles of the PDP Laban, the old genuine PDP Laban. Okay? So the pragmatists will say, well, in that case, we not only have to accept people like Lutz Barbo, but we also need to accept Manny Pacquiao because he's popular. We need to accept Ping Lacson because he can help. No? Yung unification advocates would be people who will say, let's look at what they are now, not at what they were. Because like in the case again of Lutz Barbo, he was campaign manager for Duterte, but he is now very clearly disappointed and will be an oppositionist. Diba? So this is something that we are struggling with. And magiging madugo ang selection process after the selection of the presidential standard bearer. Sa tingin ko, wala naman masyadong problema dyan. Ano? But when we start going down to selecting senators, for example, marami na yan. Those three different factions will start debating.
Okay.
No? So yun ang nagiging problema ngayon when you talk about a united opposition. But let me add one other factor to the one other aspect of the flawed Philippine electoral system. And this is the problem of turncoatism, which is one of the reasons why the PDP Laban is in the problem that it has now. Because ang daming turncoats na pumasok sa PDP Laban immediately after the election.
Mm-hmm.
Di ba? And this, to me, is something that we have to change. For example, if there were a rule, you cannot change parties less than 1 year prior to an election. Meaning, you cannot be an overnight turncoat, either before or after the election. So, which means when you say, I am PDP Laban, you have to be PDP Laban na genuine. Eh kung natalo ang kandidato mo for president, somebody else wins. So right after the election, you go and swear allegiance to that new president and abandon your party. That's sick, di ba? And this is one of the problems faced by the PDP Laban now. No? So I'm hoping, in fact, that people like Lutz here will find it fit to purge the party of people who do not even know what the principles are and who are clearly just turncoats for practical political reasons. So that's the other problem that we need to face. No?
Yeah.
So I was asked last night, Melo, what do I think about the prospects of a united opposition? Some members of the conveners group in Isambayan are saying this is not an easy goal to achieve. We have to realize that maraming challenges that we're going to face. But the thing is, kung hindi nag-umpisa yung Isambayan to talk about a united opposition, this conversation would probably not be happening now. At least nag-umpisa the need for a united opposition to fight the current administration.
Yeah. But Governor Lito, you will also agree with me that most politicians are astute as they are, because they would also know which part of the bread has butter and sugar.
Correct. Tama yun.
Because to them, it's for the good of their constituents to be in the good graces of whoever is. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's a political reality.
Yeah. And that's a political reality, really, sadly. Governor Tony, Secretary Tony, how do you look at things? Because, pragmatism na ito eh. In your group, you're identified with former President Joseph Estrada, no?
I supported Joseph because he was my drinking buddy. And I always belonged to the NPC.
Okay.
That last election, I supported Grace 4. despite the fact that I've known Rudy since way back when we were students. Because, as correctly stated by Lito, Governor Lito, you look at the character. That's why I am always reminded of what Miriam Defensor said. The least qualified among the candidates is Rudy because of his character, which is now seen by Governor Barbo. This turnkeyism, we can never correct it unless we shift to a parliamentary system government.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, when I was elected congressman in '87 under the banner of the KBL, I was surprised to see members of the cabinet of President Marcos in the party of President Cory Aquino. That's why they invented the so-called Rainbow Coalition. Now you have the President Congress and 33 deputy speaker. And they all belong to all the parties, the Liberal, NUC, the NPC, party, etc., etc. Wow. Then what turnkeyism are we talking here with the present setup? Unless we shift to a parliamentary system government, then you will have an honest-to-goodness political party.
Yeah.
Because people will not vote to the person, whether he knows he's a good-looking, whether he can box, whether he can dance, whether he can sing. People will look at the party platform. That is what we need in this country today. Ito po, last election, believe ang tawag ito Duterte. Because the 5 other candidates were decent enough to say, we will wait for the Hague arbitral decision. But Duterte said, no, I will not wait for that. I got the plug. Yung sinabi ni Barbo. Aniwala sila. Ano sabi ni Governor Barbo? Lundag sila para maunggoy. Ngayon, he was asked by a serious fisherman from Infanta Pangasinan, what happened to your promise? Kayo naman. It was part of the election bravado. Kung naniwala kayo sa akin, gago kayo. Tupito ko. Masakit. So we need a real to goodness for a political party system, shift to parliamentary system government. Mawala na yung turnkeyism balimbingan.
Okay. But the point is...
But now, that's why Chanel said, Cory destroyed the party system. A presidential, they want the party system. Now, the parties are controlled by oligarchs. I agree with him.
Okay. With the exception of a few, sabi nila, yung party list na-hijack na rin.
Oh, of course.
Oh.
So, what are we to do? When the party list has been viewed as something that would, push the agenda of those neglected and underprivileged. Governor Lito, your thoughts, please, before I go to Lutz.
Melo, it's sad, no? I liked the idea of a party list system because it empowers the so-called underrepresented sectors. But I remember this was many years ago, and I will not name the person involved, but he was then COMELEC. And we approached COMELEC with the proposal with an application for a new party list. Okay? And we were, of course, entertained. But after submitting our proposal or application without any hearing, with no further notice, we were just told that the application had been disapproved. No explanations. Okay? And then sometime later, I learned that one particular party list representative already refused to run again or to be listed again as a party list representative because someone was asking for 6 million pesos. for the inclusion of that person. No? So tama yung sinasabi ninyo na hijack na ang party list system. Pinasok ng pera and vested interests. You know, you name some of the party list representatives and you will say, this is ridiculous. They are nowhere near the marginalized sectors that they pretend to represent. Diba? So, wala. Kung ganyan lang, if the party list system has been prostituted, you might as well abolish it na. If you cannot find a way to reform that system. Now again, if you take that back to the Congress, baka walang mangyayari because again, it's the same people who you're asking to kill themselves. So mukhang hindi mangyayari.
Lahat na lang daw ho ng sektor ay nagkaroon na ng kinatawan sa party list. Ang wala na lang yata ngayong representative sa party list ay yung nagtatrabaho sa mga crematorium, ano? Baka hindi magtagal magkaroon na ng sanggunian ng mga manikurista sa Pilipinas. Things like this. But on a lighter note, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? Governor Lutz, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? And provided they don't lengthen the tunnel too much, no?
Brown.
Well, it's hard to say, but well, it's hope, especially if Duterte is not in power anymore. When I am not trying to be personal about this, but when he is supposed to answer some allegations at the International Criminal Court, and we will watch it, I think that would send a very, very clear message that you do not tamper with your obligation and your responsibility to run the country. That you are supposed to memorize, put it into your heart that public office is a public trust. And remember, you are a mere public servant and you are under contract for 6 years. And therefore, many things are expected of you. And perhaps when you say, I am inutile,
You say.
that is admitting you can't. So you have to lead the way, show the way, and lead all the way. Now, if you cannot lead, you follow. If you can't, get out of the way.
Okay. Thank you very much. Governor Tony, your thoughts. Meron ba tayong magandang maaasahan? Meron bang pag-asa?
Itong election na ito, ang pag-asa natin ay sa kabataan. I hope our young voters will be more patriotic. They will look at themselves as the future leaders of this land. And there has to be a change for the better. Because these people are still full with idealism. A good government, better leaders, opportunity for all. That is our only chance for the future. And I think isang bayan is one outlet wherein all sectors of society who wanted this government to be removed can be under that roof, fighting together for a better governance. I'm happy that Governor Barbo, who is an original PDP Laban, is talking along that line. I'm sure so many PDP Laban who are committed with the original concept sing the same tune, because actually their party has been hijacked by somebody who has been original Dilawan. Remember, the president was OIC vice mayor, was also my candidate for mayor NPC in 1992, so on and so forth. That's why if we have to remove truncatism, if we have to remove dynasty, enlarge the province, then shift to parliamentary system government, then you will have an honest to goodness party system. But before that, we have to go along sambayan, when we have to need people who can promise that we shift to parliamentary system government so that there will be a continuation program. That's why, look at Singapore, look at Japan. Japan was,
And
after the war, according to my friends, they were eating what kind of food they were eating. But look where are they now? Because of the continuation of the program. They don't look at the personality. They don't look at they look at the party, the program of the party.
okay.
Look how Israel is surviving against so many enemy, and yet they are strong. Ito
Okay.
yung mga issues na ito. Ang dami issues. If it is a parliamentary system government, matagal na yung palitan yung partido na.
Okay. Yeah. Tama po kayo. Pero ang isang mahalagang kataga rito ay yung consistency. One has to be very consistent. Governor Lito, from your end, do we see some ray of hope?
Well, Melo, we need to remember we're a young democracy, no? Any young democracy will naturally have to go through struggle before you realize the ideals that you want to see, di ba? So, siyempre there's hope, no? When we begin to lose hope, tapos na yung laban, di ba? So we have to cultivate hope in order for us to continue the fight. Number two, I remember this saying that, politics is too important to leave to the politicians alone. Diba? We need to impress upon civil society, tayo, yung mga private citizens, that you cannot leave politics only to the politicians. Otherwise, they'll run roughshod over you and your country, which explains why, for me, for example, personally, why I continue to be involved. Because the question really is, kung hindi ka lumaban, sinong lalaban para sa inyo? Di ba? So that's important to stress here. I agree with Governor Tony. The youth is really part of the hope. And I'm meeting a lot of the youth sector now, and I can sense that there is a growing sense of patriotism and responsibility. But the problem is, when we had our conversations with the youth, I asked them, how much of the youth sector now do you feel is disconnected from politics and the things that we talk about? Ang sabi ng isang youth leader, around 50%. Meaning, they're more concerned about TikTok, social media, e-games, and all these other sources of entertainment.
Probably milk tea.
Yeah, no. So your question is, how do you connect with that 50% to make them part of the responsible voting population? That's a big challenge, no? And in fact, in Isang Bayan, there are 2 youth representatives in the conveners group. No, the only sector that has 2 representatives, in fact, because we realize the importance of the youth sector. Now, what other things do you need in order to have hope? The next is leadership. And I've mentioned that already earlier this afternoon. We have to have better leadership next year. Okay? And that means choosing the right people to be elected into office. And that leadership must be empowering. And that leadership must be open to the ideas of government reform, such as parliamentary system that Governor Tony is talking about. I agree with him. I don't agree with the idea of federalism, because federalism will spawn more dynasties. But I do agree with the idea of parliamentary system because number one, the party is the one that becomes important, not the individual. And there are so many other advantages with the parliamentary system, But every time we mention, in order to have a parliamentary system, you need a charter change. But every time charter change is brought up, the motives are always questioned. Why? Because it's the politicians who say we need to change the constitution, and their motives are always in question.
Okay.
But if they say, okay, we are going to change the constitution for one purpose only, and that is to change to a parliamentary system, then maybe they can, eventually start with the amendments required. Which means very suspect ang Congress when they talk about constitutional change. They have to be very clear about the purpose. Okay, so with good leadership, with responsible citizenship, and with government reform such as a shift to parliamentary system, yes, there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
Very good. Thank you very much. This won't be the last, no? This is just an attempt of coffee chat to bring up issues which the people should know. I'd like to thank Governor Lutz Barbo for being with us, Governor and Secretary and Congressman Tony Cerilles, and Governor Lito Coscolluela. I'd like to end our discussions today with two quotes. No? Well, una muna yung naalala ko, yung sabi ng isang kaibigan ko, si Commodore Frank Tulin, nung may kampanya siya laban sa illegal logging sa Albay, sabi ng mga mayor, Captain Tulin at the time, we are behind you in your campaign against illegal logging. Ang sabi ng Navy Captain, please don't stay behind me. Ako unang mababaril dyan. Let's move shoulder to shoulder. Magkakatabi tayo sa paglaban sa illegal logging. Mahirap yung nasa unahan ako. Ako unang mababaril. Kawawa naman ako. Pero may isang quotation dito, dalawa actually. It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger, then people will appreciate your leadership. Another quote goes this way: there are times when a leader must move out ahead of the flock, go off in a new direction, confident that he is leading his people the right way. The quotes are from Nelson Mandela in his book, Our Madiba, a tribute to Nelson Mandela by people who got close to him. I hope we can have these books, no, Philippine version, when our leaders, become part of history. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Stay safe. Until next time, si Governor Lito Coscolluela, farm day niya ngayon, but he postponed it just to be with us. Thank you. God bless us all. Till next time.
Hello.
Salamat po.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Governor Tony.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Ingat.
Governor Lito.
Ingat.